So to give you an idea what we're going to speak about, I'm actually going to do my second presentation first, since it makes more sense in the chronological order. So what we do is we build cosmetic aesthetic facilities, medical day spas, wellness centers, and then we do the business plans to secure our clients' external funding, and then create all of the operational structures and all of their marketing and collaterals, and do their SEO and their websites and their social media, all specialized specifically in this industry. So we'll give you kind of a background in what we do. So no matter what type of services you provide in this vast array of cosmetic and aesthetic, everything at the end of the day has to relate to profitability and to being able to have a viable and successful business. And so of the topics I'm going to talk about today, definitely compensation and hiring the right staff of people when you're dealing in a cash-based business is incredibly important, because you have to have the right kind of personalities involved who are going to help grow that type of business. And so I'm going to share some of my parameters that I use around hiring, how I compensate based upon productivity, and then I'll follow into marketing right after that. So when we're talking about hiring people, I think two of the fundamental things that we really need to acknowledge are, first, why people leave any type of company. It doesn't necessarily mean just this type of company, but most companies. So first is economic opportunity. If people feel that they do not have an opportunity, the harder they work to earn more money, people will eventually leave for another opportunity. So when I talk about compensation, that ties into productivity. So the harder people work, the more money that they can earn, and they want to stay with you. And then the second reason why people leave is lack of acknowledgement and appreciation. And this is really important, and I think particularly with the younger generation, I can say certainly in the United States, millennials, which there's 76 million of them, and I think it translates across because I have friends who have children who are in that age range around the world, that they're very used to getting a lot of acknowledgement and feedback. They live in a world where they don't know a world that existed without cell phones or computers and instant information, instant feedback. And this younger generation really wants that within the workplace. So you need to be prepared to acknowledge your people. And I think too many times in cultures, what happens is that we catch people doing things wrong all the time instead of catching people doing things right. So for example, in the facilities I build and run, in the break rooms where the staff is, we have what's called kudos boards, where the staff can write positive things about each other, how they've been helpful, how they helped with clients, recognize them for contributions, so it creates a positive dialogue that everybody gets to see. And then we have a lot of different incentives and things that we use to acknowledge people when they've went above and beyond their job descriptions. So it's important to spend a lot of time acknowledging people for the work that they do, as quickly as you see them do it, to be specific and to recognize them. And I think that creates a culture of positive attitude and affirmation. When I look to hire, I view hiring as a 365-day-a-year process. Because the one thing that I don't want to have happen is I don't want to not have the leverage and opportunity at my side with hiring a staff of people. I don't want to be caught short and then look to hire out of desperation versus inspiration. And so when I hire all the time and I make that a year-long process, even when I don't need particular staff, it gives me leverage when I've saved resumes, CVs, and things of that nature, to when the opportunity comes and I have to hire, I have options available for me. And in a business where we are selling image, and everyone who works for us should have an image that is even a level above the clients, patients that we serve, definitely hiring people who have the right appearance to sell that image is so important. In a first interview situation, typically, that's the best that you will ever see that candidate look. So if they don't have the image of what is going to sell your product, sell your service, sell your business, then I would pass on those kinds of people, because your client who's aspiring to something greater is not going to relate to that. Body language, I definitely think that's universal. Paying attention to body language in interview processes, particularly someone who wouldn't look you in the eyes. To me, in the facilities I run, people can say, oh, if they don't look you in the eyes, they're not confident. And that could be very true, but that translates to me, a person who doesn't look you in the eyes It's a person who doesn't retail products in your facility. It's a person who doesn't upsell and sell series of services in a facility. It's also a person who doesn't pre-book and secure future appointments, and it's also a person who doesn't retain clients. So I think it's very important that we hire people who have a confidence, who believe in what they're doing, and are going to make a difference in the overall productivity of the business. Because at the end of the day, productivity is everything when it comes to a cash-based cosmetic aesthetic business. So things that I look for, I define characteristics of what I'm looking for in advance so that when I'm interviewing people, I'm very clear about what I want. And so that way, if the right person is there, they present themselves, I know that. And if they're the wrong person, because I'm clear, I also know that. So things that I look for is some simple characteristics. Attitude. I really believe that when you hire, I look for knowledge, skill, and I look for attitude. I can train in knowledge and skill, but a positive attitude is something any candidate needs to have, particularly in a business where we are selling, looking and feeling better. And so they have to come with that attitude, because I think a person with a poor attitude in business affects everyone else on the team of people and can diminish the morale within that business. So it's very important to have people with the right attitude. People who are continuously getting education. Our industry is changing daily due to technology alone. Machines that are irrelevant after 5 years and something new has come out, or new ingredients, products, and things of that nature. So we need to keep ourselves up to date, and our providers need to as well, because clients are very savvy. They're on the internet, they're reading everything, and if they come in and they're discussing something with us and we don't know anything about it, it doesn't make us look as professional. I look for people who are very honest and have good moral integrity, people who do the right thing because it's important for them to do so. That's another characteristic I look for. I look for people who work together well as a team, not people who want to work by themselves, who want to be the only shining star in a facility. They want to collaborate and realize the strength of the team is everybody working together. I look for people who are excellent communicators and handle conflict well. They can deal in situations such as, if someone has a challenge on a team that works with me, they are going to speak with the person they have the challenge with. They won't go into the break room and tell all of the other staff about the challenge they have with that person. They're direct in their communication. Also, particularly with clients, they know how to communicate effectively, what to say, what not to say, certain boundaries not to cross. Like, so for here, example in America, you would never talk about religion, politics, things of that nature. It'd be inappropriate. So you want people who are trained well to know how to be personable with clients, patients, not personal. Meaning let the client or the patient speak about themselves, to ask them lots of questions, not the provider talking about themselves the entire time. And it creates a much more effective relationship. When providers get too personal with their patients or their clients, then it diminishes that efficacy and boundary for growing a business. So a lot of times I hear providers say, oh, my clients, my patients are my friends, but that doesn't work when your friends cancel their appointments and don't show. You can't charge your friends cancellation fees. When your friends want product at the discounted rate because they're your friends don't want to take a part in the price increase that you have within your business because they're your friends. So it's more important to keep that professional relationship. Things also I look for, people who are very passionate about what they do. People who are passionate about what they do attract other people. They attract patients, they attract clients, because people like to be around people who love what they do for a living. And people who love what they do for a living tend to also be really more effective and better at it. And I think in this industry particularly, since we have such close interpersonal relationships with our patients and our clients, that it's important for us to really love what we do, because we can't fake it. You can't be disinterested or kind of be halfway with something, because people pick up on that. People who are open to change and adaptable, and then who are consistent also with their work habits. People who prepare for their day every day. In a business that's based upon productivity and selling and upselling, I want people who come into work early before their scheduled time to be there. I want them to look at their client or patient list for the day, if this isn't a cash-based operation. Look at what they want to upsell, recommend, cross-promote, retail product they want to recommend for that client that day, to be prepared so they can be consistent. And prior to owning my business, I ran the most profitable spa in New York City per square foot. And no matter that we were at 90% capacity and incredibly busy, everybody took time to take a lunch every day to regenerate, rejuvenate themselves, to eat, take care of what they needed to, so that we could all be effective and be consistent. So I think consistency comes with planning and spacing out your days appropriately to be effective from the beginning of the day, because your first patient deserves the same quality that your last patient at the end of the day deserves. Interviewing. So I look always for 3 professional references, no matter whom I'm interviewing. And that goes for everything that I do, no matter who I work with. If I work with people who do web design, if I work with an attorney, an accountant, whatever, I'm always looking for references for people who are going to be doing what their necessary skill sets are and have a track record of being able to service and deliver to clients what is necessary, meaning me, and or if it's a service provider. And then let's see if I'm going to go back here. Also with that as well, I also look for people who, here we go. I just ask one simple question of past employers: would they rehire these people again? One question tells me everything. If they would rehire them, then I look for that as a good reason. I look for people who say the only reason of leaving their job is they're looking for growth and opportunity. It's a big red flag for me in paying attention to intuition. If somebody complains about a past employer in their interview with me, I'm just the next person they're going to complain about. And so you want to make sure that people aren't complaining about their past. I don't discuss my compensation models in my first interview process. I wait to discuss those till after I've called upon references, because I'm not going to share with people what my structure is to pay if I'm not sure if I'm going to hire them or not. And then in the second interview, usually I have it outside of my clinic, my facility, in like a coffee shop, a busier place. And the reason that I do that is it allows me to see how that candidate interacts with other service providers, how they treat other service providers. And if it's a busy environment, I can also see how well they're paying attention to me in that interview process if there's a lot of external things going on. So I think it's important in interviews to time them out. From a first interview, I could do a pre-screen from a resume, ask a few questions on the phone. If they sound good, bring them in for an actual interview in the clinic, and then spend 15, 20 minutes, get references from those people. I can call on those, have the second interview. And then if they're a technical provider providing service in my facility, I would have them do demonstrations on models so I can see the quality, speed, accuracy, efficacy of their work before I would hire them. Because just because they've done something for a long time doesn't mean that they're good at it. So after I have my technical interviews would be when I would look to work with my structure. And system and structure are very important for creating consistency and success. So in the United States, for example, and in Canada and in certain countries, we have employee manuals that people have to follow. And we have job descriptions for each specific position. And so things that we look for and we cover are the benefits of working for the company. We outline those benefits so they can see what's available beyond their salary and compensation structure and what's provided, and we equate that to the dollar amounts. So that is not just an abstract for them. They realize what the company is investing back into them beyond their salary. Of course, confidentiality. If all of us work very hard and have unique proprietary rights for what we're doing in our business, that they sign and understand that they can take none of our intellectual property with them when they leave. And that in the United States in particular, it's with non-compete clauses, it's very difficult to limit somebody's right to work. But if they took your intellectual property, you would have grounds to take legal action with them. Client policies, what you can speak about with clients, not speak about with clients, not altering prices of services without management's approval, whatever the particulars are around the clients or patients you're serving, Product policies would relate to pricing. Let's say they get employee discounts off of the products that you carry in your facility. They want to utilize services in your facility, and there's certain product costs associated with those that they have to pay those up front before they can utilize service. And then if you have a dress code, I think that's very important as well. You want to be as specific as possible in how your people are presenting themselves and really sticking to that program. So in some facilities that I work with, they wear uniforms. All of the staff wears a uniform, so they're easily identified from the client or the patient. In some, it's certain colors. It could be black and white. It could be certain types of clothing. But whatever it is, in your policies, you need to be consistent because your staff watches. And so, for example, I worked in a facility where we had a dress code of black and white. And one day, someone came in gray, and I sent them home to change and redress for the day. And I had to move 2 patients. I had to give a patient a complimentary service. And I did that because all of the other staff was watching to see what would happen. And if I would have allowed that person to stay, then my boundaries would have been diminished and it wouldn't have been as effective. So it's so important, whatever your guidelines are, that you stick to those guidelines because your staff watches. And if they see that you give way with one, then they'll all come and do that. And so this structure creates a freedom for people. Other things that I look for in job descriptions, commitment to scheduled hours. I analyze with my software systems my most productive times in my facilities, and I schedule my people accordingly. So if I schedule them for a particular time, then they're there for that scheduled time to service the patient's clients when they're coming in. So people can't come and go when they would like, oh, I know I'm scheduled at 9, but my first patient isn't until 11. I'm not going to come in till then. No, you're there at 9 o'clock, and you stay till the end of your shift. So we're covering productivity. I also require education. So in my facilities, I may require 6 days of outside education and training every calendar year, but I also require 11 in-house educations that they have in the facility on a monthly basis. And so I let them know what those things are and what they're required to do. If there's any cleaning, maintenance of a facility, I do a roster list of taking care of a facility. Not all of us have a fleet of housekeeping that takes care of everything, and everybody has to take part in that. And in my facilities I run, at least in the United States, we're able to, if they don't do what they're supposed to do, we diminish their compensation because of it, and it makes people do what they need to do. Performance evaluators. This is where I'm going to talk about productivity and finance. It's so important, and I relate these to my structures and my process of interviewing, because people who do not like to be held accountable will not want to work for you if you have productivity goals tied to compensation. And it's a critical factor to be able to have that because it helps grow the business. So things that I look in growing business are service sales. How much are they selling in service? And we set criteria for how much they need to sell. Their retail sales in the facility in correlation to their service sales, because we have a percentage that they need to sell in retail to their service dollars. Pre-booking. Pre-booking is all about pre-booking the clients, selling them series, getting them locked and loaded into their next upcoming series of services. And they're required to do that as a part of what they do. And then they could have either what I call a chemical service, premium service, or series sales. Well, that means that time is money. We are selling time, and we have certain services that are more valuable than others and bring in more revenue to a facility. So I could have a service they're currently scheduled for that's, let's say, $300, but they have the ability to upsell them into a service that is $500. So it's getting them to think that time is money and maximizing the money that they make in that amount of time. And so things that I focus on with the retail and these keys to success. And retail is critically important because as far as margins compared to service are concerned, it's much greater. With a branded line of products, typically you'll have between a 26 to 35% profit margin after your costs and expenses related to product. Whereas in service, at least here, The highest profit points in service are usually 18 to 21%. And my most successful clients have retail stores built within their medical spa facilities. And my most successful clients actually sell dollar for dollar retail to service. So they're making very good money off of their retail environment. And then retail aids in retention for the client, meaning that statistically, when a patient or a client leaves a facility and they take home one product, they're 20% more likely to come back to you than if they left with nothing. And if they take home two products, retention increases to 40%. So with my providers, I really focus on the aspect of retention. Having the retail go home to extend the experience, maintain the results, but more importantly, to retain that client. And then referral, I track with my patients who is referring. And in the United States, we can't have a referral program with medical services because it's fee splitting and it's illegal. But I can track who is referring me people, and I can non-solicited reward them with something by tracking in my software where my referrals come from. And then pre-booking is a part of the entire process in the sense that I talk about pre-booking appointments and series and the efficacy of coming in at certain times to maintain service in the consultation. I talk about it during the service, and at the end, my providers will go to the desk and make sure that that client is pre-booked, has bought their series, has the retail that they need to take home with them all of that time of closing the visit. And then I constantly am working on dialogues with my providers so that they're very effective in dealing with patients. Because so many times, in the United States, for example, the rise of medical aesthetics and bringing in medical professionals, for example, they were used to getting salaries. They were not used to being in cash-based businesses where the more you sold, the difference that it made. And so they were not used to being in a sales role. So I think if you have a lot of technical training and proficiency, but you do not have sales dialogued in script, you have to teach those things and help people over the course of time. Because there's a huge difference in dialogue such as, do you need any retail today? Or, these are the products I recommend. Which of these would you like to take with you? So we work a lot on scripting. And then we test that out. We have recorded calls when people call in so they hear our front concierge and the dialogue they use. We have mystery shoppers come into the facilities and get services done and fill out evaluations, and they give us feedback to make sure that everything is being done. And then we have software like Demand Force that'll send out reviews to our patients after services where they can fill out a review and an evaluation. So it's very effective. So again, retail being the highest profit center for your business, client retention, and unlimited income potential. And so with retail, in building a facility with retail, I find that the most successful facilities, as far as if it's skincare, for example, the fewer lines and a broader selection work better. Having too much of one type of product is not effective because it lacks in training, inventory, and the ability for clients to understand the difference between the different types of products and things that are available. And then talking about referrals, referrals are the fastest way to grow your business, and I like to trace where my referrals come from. As a matter of fact, statistically, 20%, your top 20% of your patients, your clients, usually bring in 80% of your revenue for your business. So I'm always looking to maximize the top 20% of my patient base because they spend the most money comparatively to everybody else. And of course, pre-booking, as I said, generates your future in advance. And the key number with pre-booking and generating your future revenue is when your facility hits 75%, which means 75% of your patients before they leave have pre-booked for their next services. Then you can start forecasting your revenues and how much you're going to be bringing in. And it puts you in control of your business to maximize your time and efficiency, and it trains clients and patients to be able to do so, so they're not calling in at the last minute, which can ruin schedules and make it very difficult. And squeezing people in to make somebody else who made their appointment early wait is not a good idea in a cash-based revenue business. So all of these things, what I do is I have what's called standing meetings with my staff, 15 minutes individually, every single week, going over their numbers and their productivity goals. So it keeps them mindful. because typically service providers tend to be people and not numbers people. But when you keep people mindful of their numbers on a weekly basis, it keeps them focused and accountable. And it creates a space for open communication. Their productivity increases because of that. And I find that staff like the one-on-one time that they have in those meetings. And they do have to be consistent. If they're not consistent, your numbers will be inconsistent as well. So I'm going to talk about compensation. So in the United States, we can't pay commissions because it's considered fee splitting. So what I do is I tie productivity goals based to hourly or salary amounts, and that makes the difference in being legal, but also holding people accountable to productivity. So things that we look for and our financial models are, and I have many facilities that are a combination of traditional spa therapies along with medical therapies all together in one. But if I was looking for a return on investment with my providers and what they were doing, in spa service I would look for 2 to 3 times what I'm paying that person in gross service sales. And then within medical services, I look for 4 to 6 times minimum return on investment for what I'm paying the provider and what they're providing in their service sales. So if I was paying a nurse $75,000 US, I would expect her to bring in a minimum of $300,000 in service sales to upwards of $450,000, depending on what the mix of service was. But those are minimums of what we look for, particularly if you're looking at a nurse who's doing a lot of injections, and the cost of consumables is so high in relation to those services, the dollar amounts would have to be higher. So what I look for is productivity goals with a compensation structure with an hourly wage assigned to them. And I'll give you an example of this model. So I have 4 levels to my pay structure. I have a silver, a gold, a platinum, and diamond level. And then I have my productivity goals of pre-booking, retention, series sales, and retail. And based upon their productivity goals, their hourly wages can go up. The higher they reach in their goals, the more money that they can make, all allowing still for me to be in the context of profitability with my services. And with these goals, you have to, in my model, reach all 4 levels in that particular goals in those levels to make that level. So if at diamond, you had your pre-booking, your retention, and series goals met, but you did not meet your retail goal, you would fall back to the level where your retail goal was. So that's our incentive to make sure to hit all 4 areas. Because in doing this, it's important for people to grow their business for themselves, but also for the clinic, the practice. And if you don't have these types of goals associated with their compensation, you can't expect that type of growth to happen or the incentive to be there. They need to realize that it is about cash-based services in this type of a model. So someone who could be at a silver team level as an RN would be making, say, $30 US an hour, but if they were at a diamond level in their productivity, they would be at $45 an hour. So they're very incentivized to reach those higher levels. But as they're reaching those higher levels and their productivity goals are higher, it's commensurate with the growth they're doing still allows for the owner of the clinic to be profitable. And so examples of different levels. So if someone had gross sales in medical of $10,000 in a week, a nurse practitioner, and she was at the gold level, so she was at 30 hours at $50 an hour, so she got $1,500 in pay for those $10,000 in sales, so my ROI was 6.6%. And I'm always looking to maximize what I'm doing in service and also compared to capacity. Capacity is very important. Maximizing the hours in my facility that are available, doing the most profitable services available to me. And I'm always thinking in those terms. So for example, I'll use a real simple example. I could have a room, let's say I have a mixed use facility that has traditional spa therapies, wellness, and then has medical services. Let's say somebody was getting their nails done in America, which I don't have many clients who do, but a room like that would do $80 US an hour. That's not a lot of money. I'm not interested in that really. But I could have a cool sculpting room that does $800 US an hour minimum or could do more if they're getting different zones done at the same time. So I'm always focused on my highest revenue producing capacity available and mitigating my risk with services that have a lot of effort that don't return the financial results. And so different, depending on, because I know we're all from different places, in many countries, your benefits and things are part of what becomes that you get for paying your taxes and living in that particular place. In the United States, it depends on what type of facility that you have, how much in benefit that you get, because our labor costs are so high to begin with. So people have a certain demand for what they want to make, and if the labor cost is so high, the benefits will be much less. So you may, in a medical clinic here that offers aesthetic services, they have their compensation, and they may have health insurance paid for by their employer, and they may get like a week's vacation paid for them, and that would probably be about the limit of what would be offered within a salaried package in order for that facility to be profitable. So again, like vacation, and usually vacation, sick, and wellness days are tied together. I do this in some of my facilities where if people don't call in sick and for a calendar year, I'll bonus them back a couple of days pay for being there consistently throughout the entire year. Then I pay for part of their education. And some of my companies also do profit sharing, where at the end of the year, after all costs of goods and expenses are paid, and after the owners have their withdrawal, whatever profit is there, a percentage goes back in bonuses to the staff. But it is just not a bonus. So if they leave, they don't take that with them. They have to be there for a year before they can collect upon that bonus. But what profit sharing really does is it mitigates waste and minimizes waste. So, for example, all of our services protocols have consumable costs associated with them, and we may have protocols for how much of a consumable is used, but they don't see us write the check for those products that are used in services. And so if they use 2 to 3 times the amount of what was required, for example, it could throw us out of profitability. And so when you have profit sharing, the providers police each other and make sure that nobody is overusing or wasting, because it takes away from the bonus they could get. And an example, and if any of you want the slides for this, I can certainly provide you the presentation with these details here. And so I'm going to go into now my marketing presentation, which is makes sense to go into after this particular one. And before I do, I can answer if anybody has any questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. Mm-hmm. So here's some just facts to explain what's happening in the United States and the growth that we've had within cosmetic aesthetics. So in the United States, spa and leisure-related activities is the 5th largest leisure activity in the United States. And we've increased over 164 million visits within this realm by the end of 2013, and true medical spas make up about almost 9%. The growth is definitely happening in results-oriented services, but it's interesting, even with this phenomenal growth, and during the time of our financial recession in the United States, I noticed that with my clients, no matter if a bigger ticket items related to machines or surgeries was minimized, the sales and revenues of Botox and injectables never diminished whatsoever. People continued getting those things done. And interestingly enough, with this growth that we've had, still 70% of American women have never been to a spa before. And we're having this kind of growth. And then coupled now with the millennials coming into the workplace and having spending power, I think we're going to see an industry that was typically related to a 10% male population increase to 30%, because younger men have no stigma attached, at least in the United States, for wellness and self-care. So the growth is going to be phenomenal with the male market and clientele. So things in relationship to growth as well. Botox, Dysport, Xeomin were the most performed services within the U.S. by the end of 2013, with a 15.6 increase with procedures And then in 2013, 2.5 billion was spent on injectables alone, with 1.9 billion spent on skin rejuvenation, a fast-growing segment of the aesthetic non-surgical industry. So what we're seeing is a rise of non-invasive treatments, things that are less severe, continue to improve and perform in results, and surgical procedures have diminished because there's so many other options to go to prior to. So the non-surgical procedures in the US, Botox, botulism toxin, hyaluronic acid, microdermabrasion, and photorejuvenation. So they've all seen considerable amounts of growth. And what I find is most of my clients are having their patients in a combination of therapies to get the most effective results and retain the clients. So typically, we're seeing a patient who's coming in for 2 or 3 things, not just one thing. And it works much better for everybody involved. So the global anti-aging market by the end of 2013 was $122 billion, and anti-aging is going to be worth upwards of $191 billion by 2019. So this growth is going to just continue, and obviously you have emerging markets which will contribute to this, but it also is a younger population and demographic that is getting services that were traditionally done by people who are older to prevent the signs of aging from ever happening. I'm seeing lots of women in the United States in their 20s going in for Botox and certain procedures to prevent aging from happening to them in the first place. Obviously, the web is very important in marketing. Typically, a consumer visits a website 5 to 7 times before they make a point of contact with the prospective business they're looking to do business with. So, and the website is critically important. I think the most modern sites that are done in parallax with a WordPress base are the most effective. And you want to make sure if your facilities of having virtual tours before and afters and things of that nature, so people can really see what your facility looks like, so it's not an intimidating unknown factor, as well as the results that you're producing with your patients. So trends that I'm seeing, premium personal care products. When patients are spending thousands and thousands of dollars on procedures and treatments, they're very easily going to be spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on skincare and products to take home to maintain those services. So whereas maybe 15 years ago, you had very few select products that were of a significant investment in being able to be purchased, but today there are many lines of products where a skincare line could cost you $1,000 for that line of products. But if your patient spent $5,000 in procedures, she's very likely to spend $1,000 to maintain those results. And for here, what I look for in focusing on my ideal and best clients is somebody who can make this a part of their lifestyle, that it's not an opportunity or financial cost associated to them. And so it's really luxury is flexibility of time, life experiences, and comfort, beauty, and quality. And so people today particularly are going from being a consumer to being what's called a transumer. A transumer is somebody who's shopping for experiences, somebody who wants to be a part of a sense of community. And you'll see with millennials, within even spas, medical spas, they want to be part of a community. They want to be a part of something greater and feel connected. And so I'm looking for people who want to feel connected, who have an experience with my facility and feel connected to that staff, connected to the information that we provide, and they stay with us and stay loyal. And we don't compete with other practices or other clinics within our area. We're actually competing with clients' lifestyle choices. Do I want to come in and spend $5,000 on procedures to feel better, or do I want to take a terrific vacation and go away to Thailand for 4 weeks? So many times I don't worry about what's happening around me with other like businesses. I'm competing for something else that they may want to do, not another clinic. So positions I look for within my marketing. My unique selling points, very important for us to relate what our unique selling points are. What differentiates us from people who do similar types of work? Is it education, experience, unique product or service offerings, making our clients, patients aware of what we do that's different than somebody else who's in this realm or marketplace? And then I'm always looking to sell my services based upon benefits, because people, no matter where they are, buy for 2 reasons. They buy solutions to challenges, and they buy into good feelings. So when I'm conveying the message of all of my offerings of services, treatments, etc., I'm selling them in a benefit fashion. I give enough of a description on my website and my collaterals for people to make a buying decision or make the interest in making a consultation. And everything that I offer and how I write and describe things is solutions to challenges and the good feelings that are going to be created that they're going to experience after they've had the services with us. So why do clients consider services in this range? Aging, obviously. People want to look younger. It's a competitive world. In the United States, if you're a 55-year-old man and you become unemployed, it's a very dangerous thing to be. So you have people who are competing with younger men and women. They're getting services done. Self-esteem, they want to feel better. Special occasions. You have a lot of people have special occasions and they'll come in for services so they look great by a certain date. And that's why it's really important when we're discussing things in consultation with our patients to find out if they do have special dates in mind, timelines, because then you can time your services, your offerings, what you're doing to get them ready for that date. And they're going to be much more willing to invest in that timeline of services if they have an incentive that they're reaching by a certain time. Lifestyle changes, they're getting a divorce, they are in a new relationship. I see a lot of my clients' patients come in for those reasons. Then, of course, work-related, looking younger to stay viable within the work that they do in industry. So in consultations, so obviously privacy is very important for the patient. I think it's very important, no matter what we're offering to our patients, that we let them know clearly what to expect. Because sometimes our patients have unrealistic expectations. And so, for example, I'll let them know what to expect and what the results and timeline could be. I take pictures of my patients, and I show them those pictures all the way along through the process because patients can forget what they looked like when they started. And so it's a good reminder. And I ask questions in my consultation such as, what do you love most about your skin, your hair, whatever the particular is? What would you like to alter and improve? And how much time and money are you currently spending on taking care of this? So I can get a sense of where my patient is in their investment level and what I'm going to do with my recommendations. I identify their goals. I provide lots of examples. I want lots of examples on my website. I want to have what I call lookbooks in my waiting areas in my patient rooms where they can see all of the before and afters. Many times we use the machines such as like the Canfield Visia or the Reveal to do the skin analysis to show them the different demographics because it's more effective in closing service sales. And then quoting the investment. And so with investment, it's very important that your people are trained to quote investment effectively and they're confident. In typical situations with my clients, the physician does not quote investment. We have a consultation closing specialist who quotes all of the pricing, and they're trained in that. They understand the different personality styles and how people buy. Some people buy very quickly, some people need time to process. They're able to relate to that. And so you need somebody who, if you're selling services that cost multiples of thousands of dollars, euros, what have you, who has that confidence to close those sales effectively. And then consultation, following up, time payment options, financing if that's available, and a plan to service. Because if somebody's had an effective consultation, they're interested, I'm going to follow up in a very short period of time to convert them into their series of services and make sure that their financing is all in order if it's necessary to be able to achieve the results that they're looking for. So team mindset. Everybody who works within a team needs to value what it is that you offer in your clinic, in your facility. If somebody does not believe in what you're doing, they're never going to sell it or recommend it. If they think it's too expensive, they're never going to sell and or recommend it. So everybody has to believe the power of the change that happens with our patients when we make a huge difference in their appearance and they perceive themselves in a new way for the first time. It enhances clients' lifestyles, and everybody has to believe in the quality and experience of the service providers who are performing the services and need to be able to speak well of them and effectively about those providers. And again, drivers, retail, referral, pre-booking, consultation, role-playing dialogues, all important things to have. And then materials that I use. I use handwritten thank you letters, particularly with clients who are making large investments in resources and money. I send handwritten thank you cards to those clients. Testimonials, anywhere that I possibly can have them. They will sell your services and products more effectively than any of us could, who are the best sales trained people. Website with before and after photography. Meet the Doctor evening. Special events are an excellent tool for conversion of sale and service. My clients usually do monthly special events, inviting people in. But it's not only just on exhibiting and showing service examples. My clients could have a nutritional coach who comes in that'd be relevant to what their clients want to hear about. A financial planner who specializes in helping women plan their financial situations. You can diversify who comes in and does your VIP presentations, but they work well for selling services, products, cross promotions that only happen in those event settings. And then, of course, using social media in all of your marketing. So my most successful clients will do our pre-event marketing to get people there, but then we will do live streaming of Facebook photos, Instagram, things that are Twitter that are happening at the event, and then we do a post-event follow-up with lots of photos and happy people who have had an amazing time to create that sense of community for their patients. And then, of course, email marketing, newsletters, your social media, everything. I like these contexts because they're all trackable, traceable, much less expensive than what used to be traditional advertising, and work incredibly well. And then younger people, this is their mode of learning, staying connected. So I don't do magazine advertising, I don't do radio, I don't do television, things of that nature. I do digital, almost 100%, along with my special events, and then networking functions that bring me my new client flow and growth. Any questions? Say the USP, unique selling points. What's my USP? I specialize specifically in this industry from start to finish, from architectural design to business planning to operationals to all of the marketing tactics and strategies. And I only do this. And I've done it for 25 years. So it's very different. So I don't do consulting for lawyers. I don't do consulting in any other field except this field. Thank you very much, everybody. Mm-hmm.
In the last years. It's not the same situation in Europe. In Europe, it's growing medical spa, for example, specifically in Spain, it's not growing a lot because the doctor dermatologist
Mm-hmm.
and the consumer in Spain don't believe a lot in the medical spa. They prefer to go to the office, to the doctors,
Mm-hmm.
but as you say, it's much more for another kind of consumers, because it's not the people that really want to improve the image. It's much more to take one day different, to go to the medical spa, but not to make medical treatments. Maybe here is different.
I think I see a few things. I mean, I've worked all over, and I've worked in Europe, and in Africa, and Asia, and Australia, and such. I do think in trend that even with people who are looking for results-driven treatments, having a more spa, aesthetically pleasing environment is a trend that's happening and will continue to happen. And I think that younger generation will fuel that as well. Definitely in the U.S. for sure. You know, people getting results-oriented treatments want to be in a spa type of setting versus a clinical, sterile type of setting, if it's related to cosmetic aesthetics for sure. And I think that, in wellness, and there's a whole comprising focus to wellness. So, for example, things that are happening here, which are quite nice to see in combination, is the rise of halotherapy, the salt therapies, and the salt caves, which is terrific. Very new to the U.S., but it has a long track record in Europe of benefit. IV therapy, PRP, things of that nature. So there's a lot more happening beyond the traditional things of just Botox. Because, in Europe, for example, you have wellness and you go to the wellness retreats and you have diet, nutrition, exercise, spa therapy. it was not that mindset here for sure. But I think you're seeing a combination of a total holistic approach come together, and where people can, I think at least the American woman doesn't want to be labeled into a box. She may go to a spa that has multi-use discipline facility and get Botox, take a yoga class, and buy an organic product and go home. And so it's not just one type of thing in one type of facility. But I do think it's growing, and it'll continue to grow. And I think with the next generations that come up, we'll have more of that type of environment than just, a spa or a doctor's office. They'll merge perhaps more over the course of time. Yes?
Would it take any consent from the patient before releasing their photographs on web?
Yes, they have to have a signed consent.
Because in India, they want to keep it secret.
And you will have people who want to keep it secret all over the world. They want to keep it secret. But then you'll have some people who are happy to share before and afters. Or sometimes you will block out so you can only see certain portions of what a before and after is, so you couldn't recognize necessarily everything. And I think that's true everywhere. You'll have some people who will, and some people who won't.
More than 90%.
I would ask everybody, because even with 10% of people's, signing a form of consent to utilize the pictures in your marketing materials, for sure. Yes?
I was curious about USA, as Maria pointed out, is kind of different than Europe, some Europe countries like Spain or Mediterranean countries, but is any problem for you to, for some patients once, and I was asked in my presentation about that, once the therapy, to attend the spa, to spend time there, and they don't have the time to go every week or go, periodically, how do you handle that? Because I work for, in my company, I work for, and many people refuse the treatments not because of the money, but because of they don't have time to.
Right. I think it's the type of facility that you're running. There are some people who would like to have an experience of that traditional spa and therapies and be there all day long. But I think when you're dealing with medical aesthetics and things of that nature, the services are fairly fast, efficient, and people are coming, in and out for those services. So I think there is a trend for very streamlined, quick procedures that produce a result that people can be in and out with as minimal downtime as possible. And so if you offer an array of those, then that's definitely going to be one of your marketing strategies is, like I have doctors here who do lunchtime lipo. And so it's very quick, fast, efficient. And there's definitely a market for that. Or like PRP, for example, they come in for a PRP facelift. It's done very quickly, and there's no downtime that's associated with it.
So you agree that be quick and be efficient is key for success?
It is, I think, if we're talking this selection of services, for sure. It's absolutely quick, efficient. Even if something's invasive, people are looking for the shortest amount of downtime possible to have. And I think it's important to really sell that information effectively up front and let people know what they can expect in their decisions. But I do think that people want fast, quick, efficient services, and with technology, it's making that happen more and more every day. Yes?
Medical doctor practice often is very small, and there is not a lot of people. For example, there is administration, nurse, doctor, maybe a little bigger, and then you meet a situation that you would like to fire people, let him go because it's not good for you. It doesn't. How it is best way you can fire person from you in such a small, quite family.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Circumstances.
First, the people who we work with are our colleagues, not our friends. And you have the job descriptions, all of your organizational things together with your expectations. I think when people start not following your protocols, I sit down and I write these people up and they have what I call a counseling memorandum. I counsel them on what was not supposed to be happening, get their acknowledgement of what they were supposed to be doing. They sign off on this, and let's say after, if I've had to write somebody up 3 times with a counseling memorandum for not following our protocols and our procedures, then they know what's coming. And it's so much easier to have that structure too. Like, so if I go into a meeting, for example, and somebody has not been following what they should be doing in their job descriptions, to say, let's go to this agreement where on page 11 you agreed to do this and you signed to do this. So it's your structure you're going back to. And so if they don't follow the structure, I write them up, and then after a certain amount of time, then I would terminate them and I'd have all of my documentation as to what's happening. But typical owner or manager, at least here in the United States, does not terminate until usually 6 to 9 months later from the first moment they thought that they should terminate somebody. But somebody who's not the right fit for you costs you time, money, resources, morale, all of these things. So documentation and doing it consistently is the best way to do it. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I give you your certificate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.